just be a Bears fan. And they were really bad, so no one could ever call me bandwagon for them. But I always love to support our guys that we've had the privilege to work with, so I always try to rep them.
Absolutely, yeah.
I think
cool.
we're good.
Awesome. Well, yeah, welcome to Voices of Valor, episode
Appreciate
2.
having me.
Yeah, sitting down here with Kody Krupps. Why don't you tell us a little bit about where you're from, kind of what you study, and all that sort of good stuff.
Yeah, so from Central Illinois, born and raised, went to a small D1 college, Bradley University. From there, have the privilege of going to one of the top physical therapy programs in the country, Washington University in St. Louis. Had a phenomenal time there, learning their systems and methodologies. During my time there as a student, had the privilege of working down at Champion Sports Medicine down in Alabama. Kevin Wilkes, a big physical therapist that kind of everyone knows about in the Alabama area. And then afterwards was able to go to the Exos in Phoenix, Arizona. Worked there. That was my first exposure to like the NFL pre-draft world, MLB off season, really seeing like the high performance side of the sports performance realm, which was amazing. After that, finished up at school, went to work at the University of Cincinnati. I completed a sports residency there, so physical therapy is kind of getting into following like an MD traditional route where they're having specialty areas after you graduate with your doctorate. So was able to learn from some of the best there, Bob Mangine, Tim Mahan, Aaron Himmler, where I worked directly with their football program, would travel with the team, go to all their practices, be the main guy for their rehabs, as well as get exposure with all their other Division I sports. Finished up there July 2020. Got offered the position to come down and help build ROI at the time as a staff physical therapist. These past 4 years was able to grow to kind of the CEO type over those first 3 years, and then a very intriguing opportunity happened where our original owner decided to divest. So then it gave me the opportunity to kind of swoop in, take ownership this past March, and help keep all my people employed, keep this team together, and just ultimately continue to help all these athletes and people that we love working with.
Love it. That'll happen pretty fast, right?
Very fast. Very, very fast. Like I said, wasn't really expecting it. Unique situation kind of coming down with the opportunity where our founder decided just to completely leave the company. So then it kind of left everything up in the air, in all honesty. And then myself and one of our other performance coaches here just talked to the ownership group, was like, hey, we have a vision for this entire brand, this company. We're going to do some really good things if you guys still allow us to. And thankfully, they were all about developing a great culture and keeping a phenomenal team of people together. And they allowed us that opportunity, so I can never be more thankful for that.
Yeah, vision and execution. The money will follow, right?
Most of the time. Yeah, you always kind of have to do that, but then I think it's just a lot of times the work hopefully speaks for itself. You get high school kids in here, you get recreational athletes in here, but then you get to work with those professional level guys. It's everyone always loves working with those guys, and then I think once you kind of continue to hone your skills, hone your knowledge, your education, kind of your systems, it really starts to produce the results that you're looking for with those people.
Yeah, and then as for those that don't know, ROI Sports Performance Physical Therapy, we're located, what would you say, North Austin? Yeah,
North Austin. We've been in the same location since we were founded in 2020. We do a little bit of everything. Obviously, the physical therapy side, we do sports performance, work with the youth athletes, work with the recreational athletes, all the way up to the professionals. We do a little bit of pro baseball off season. We have an NFL pre-draft program that we've done. This will be year 5 coming up this next season that we're super excited for. We do a little bit of NFL off season. So like I said, we've been able to do a lot of cool stuff, and I couldn't be more thankful and appreciative of the team that we have to help execute all those plans.
Absolutely, yeah. So you got the Chiefs hat on.
Just a little bit. We got a guy on the team that likes Sprite.
He likes Sprite. Love it. I guess for you as a practitioner, what would you say sort of your unique insights are? I mean, you've been around for a certain number of years. You got some business experience, but anything unique that might be different from what you might see on LinkedIn or
Yeah, so honestly, I think the big differentiating factor for me would be my time at the University of Cincinnati.
Okay.
That residency I was just thrust into being the guy that these athletes would go to for help. So it was essentially a sink or swim moment of the career where like you have to figure it out, and you'll figure out real quick like if you can handle like being at high level sports or not. It's because like it's not short hours. Like there were times where I was there 6 a.m. for the injured group lift, and then practice gets pushed back to 6 p.m. because it's 105 out, and then practice ends at 8. You have to stay for treatments, so and you're there till 10 p.m. The hours aren't exciting, but you really learn a lot about yourself and I guess your desire just to continue to help these athletes. I mean, I guess I come from like the traditional physical therapist background. I was like, okay, high school athlete, wanted to play collegiately, got hurt a bunch, couldn't really follow that path. So I always wanted to stay in the sports realm. So kind of pivoted a lot and was looking at like athletic training or physical therapy, decided to go down the physical therapy realm and just absolutely wanted to immerse myself. Like, how could I be the best clinician to help these people? And during the time at Cincinnati, is like I said, those mentors I had there were amazing. Dr. Mahan was able to go to Rutgers following. Bob Mangini is one of the founders of like sports physical therapy. He's been around forever. He knows probably everything. He'd probably be an encyclopedia when it comes to the sports medicine realm, but just the ability to learn from those people and just try to absorb all the information like a sponge during my year there, it really sets you apart from just someone who goes straight into practicing once they graduate. Like everyone kind of wants to work with like a high level athletic population, but really having the tools, the background, and the experience can set you apart and really help get the outcomes that you're looking for, especially for these high level athletes. You can't treat someone like a Brian Cook the same as you would for an individual who had their knee replaced who's 60 years old. Like there's differences, principles are the same, but you really have to build on those layers to help try to bridge that gap from physical therapy or rehabilitation to them actually performing at the highest level that they possibly can.
And that's just recognizing the demands of the actual game, their schedule, just all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I think that's a huge part. And like with a sport like football, there's so many different positions in it. So you need to know the athletic profiles for each position, kind of the strengths, the weaknesses of the athletes at their specific position. So that way, when they are rehabbing from an injury and they can't run, like you can start to focus on some of these impairments or limitations very early on to hopefully try to build up a better athlete than they were prior. Because again, injuries happen in sports. Like you can never completely eliminate them, but when they do happen, I kind of like to view it as we're starting with a clean slate. So like let's build a solid foundation, super wide, super strong, super powerful, and then we just layer on top of everything until we can get them back.
Got it. And it was interesting, you were kind of talking about your time at Cincinnati. Kind of made me think of guys showing up for, football in high school, like they think it'll be easy, maybe more at the college level. Did you have a lot of peers that were dropping out and couldn't make it with the long hours? So
the residency, I was the only resident there. So it's completely different than just the traditional where it's you just accept hundreds of people, and then if you make it, you make it. If you don't, you don't. Very one-off, individualized program where it's built around like accredited through, RFPT CAS. I can't even remember the accrediting body for the residency.
How many of those residencies are there across the country? This one sounds...
Oh, geez. So when I was looking back in, it's probably 2017 and 2018, that's when I kind of first learned about the specialization avenue in physical therapy, because just at the base level, every doctoral program of physical therapy, they have to graduate you as a generalist. So you really can't specialize as you're getting your doctorate. And that's when they kind of develop different areas of specialty that you could pursue following graduation. So obviously there's sports, there's orthopedics, there's geriatrics, there's pediatrics, there's a few others as well. But the sports realm, I think there might have been 40 or 50 when I was doing my research. And then the one at Cincinnati, it's a very funny story. It was actually a residency and accredited before, lost accreditation, so then they stopped taking residents, and then they submitted for reaccreditation. Then I was the first resident to come back and actually go through that
Okay.
entire process. But ever since then, there's a ton more that are popping up. Not every single one is going to be like the University of Cincinnati's residency program where you're thrown
Fair, yeah.
into the athletic training room. A lot of times you're just stuck at a outpatient orthopedic clinic and you only have to see about 40% athletes to be classified as one. So there's a lot of differences. So I always recommend, like, if that's the avenue that you're looking, do your research, reach out to the residency director and like get a true feel, because if that's what you want to do and like you want to work with a big population of high school athletes, go down that route. I wanted to get into the collegiate and professional realm, so I went down the University of Cincinnati route, and it was an awesome experience.
Seems like a straight shot. It doesn't sound like you were working at, any of the typical general population physical therapy
Thank
clubs.
goodness. I would get so bored. Again, it's a needed area. Like, there's a lot of people who need to get physical therapy at that level, but it's just not really what kind of lights my fire and gives me fulfillment.
I know it looks very different, like night and day. I mean, we're on the technical side, so I just know, we don't typically sell to the general PT clinics, but why is it boring? Like, why does it have to be that way?
So again, a lot of the principles, there's going to be a ton of overlap between like the orthopedics and the sports realm. So it's like you always want to protect the healing tissues initially. You want to try to restore range of motion, and then as you're restoring range of motion, you want to try to load into those new ranges of motion so that individual can actually use their arm at that new degree of flexion. I think it's just like that last piece is putting it together. Is like, okay, just the general outpatient population, they just want to get back to being pain-free. A lot of the athletes that we work with, it's not just being pain-free. It's about performing at the level they were when they got injured, if not a level that's higher than that. So that kind of blending in like principles of rehabilitation with performance and strength and conditioning, that's kind of the unique blend where you can have a little more fun with it than just going through the motions, working on range of motion, 3 sets of 10, banded external rotation. You can build back into like them actually being a football player, whereas just the general outpatient orthopedic realm, it's getting back to doing what they want to do pain-free. Like I said, super important, just not for me.
Yeah. I know right now you have some of your baseball guys coming in. Now it's getting close to the off season. What is your favorite sport to work with?
Oh, I might get some heat for this one.
You can be honest here.
I'll definitely be honest. Like, I love working with all of them. It's a huge challenge because you kind of have to adapt your thinking based on their specific movement patterns, their experience, their age, kind of the wear and tear they've had on the body from the season, like what type of position they are, if they're a starting pitcher or they're a relieving pitcher. But all that being said, football is definitely my favorite to work with. I think there's just a huge difference in the potential like athletic profile from position to position. More variety, and it adds a little bit more fun. Like, you could be working with an offensive tackle who's 6'4", 340 pounds, and then you're working with a corner or a wide receiver who's 5'7", 175 pounds, and you have this huge, big, strong guy who can move quick in short bouts, and then you have this crazy fast, super twitchy guy as a receiver. So you kind of have to vary like how you're programming and working these guys back into what they need to be doing. Lineman, I need to get him strong so he can be able to push and block people. Receiver, I need to get you fast and being able to change direction super, super quick. So there's overlap between each position. Obviously, they all need to run. They all need to be able to cut. But once you kind of get into the minutia of each individual position, it can offer a lot of fun and a lot of variety.
I mean, you're probably learning new stuff every time you have
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time. And even some of the guys will kind of, once we're breaking down, like, I'll even ask them, it's like, so where do you feel like you need to work on to get back to 95 or 100%? They'll give me drills that they still don't feel 100% confident in. So then it's kind of my job to break those drills down into smaller pieces and then start to progress them back up to it until we can get to that drill, have them moving at close to 100%. And then build that confidence back up so they can confidently say, like, oh, I'm ready to go.
Absolutely, yeah. Just talking about football made me think about it. What do you think the future of NCAA with NIL and everything is going to be?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think there's a lot of uncertainty. Even just with like conference realignment, I think that's going to offer huge discrepancies, and then I think there's going to be a lot of teams like those top 40 or 50 where that gap between them kind of gets a little smaller and smaller, just because with donors, with each individual school, I believe in like 2030 or 2031, like each of them has a set allotment that they can pay players, but that's not including like NIL or sponsors or donors as well. So I think those elite level programs are going to continue to probably separate and even potentially do like a super league down the past. And then you're going to think of these like FCS level schools who just, they don't have the donors or the funding to try to get those top guys. And when these top schools see this crazy athlete and crazy potential for someone at a smaller school, they can just swoop in and offer life-changing money to this kid. And no disrespect on the kid, like it's hard to say no that if you're coming from nothing and someone offers you a whole hell of a lot of money, like how can you say no when it can change your future, your family's future, and your kid's future for years to come? So I think it's going to be very, very interesting. I'm definitely excited, nervous to see how it continues to progress through like this interesting time. Just even watching how the conferences have realigned these past couple of years, and then even talks with like our NFL pre-draft work is like where initially a lot of those conversations are being had with the agents, whereas now it's like a lot of the players have the power when it comes to picking like where they want to go and train, because if they like an agent, the agent says I want to send you here, but then the player says no, I want to go train at this place. If you don't want to send me there, I'm just going to sign with the guy that says he will. So there's a lot of different like power dynamic changes going on. I definitely am for like players getting their piece of the pie, like when they're getting in video games, their merchandise is getting sold, like just ticket revenues from the live games. I think there definitely needs to be a portion of that, but there definitely needs to be some sort of governing body or something a little more strict. I feel like it just went from zero to everything so fast. Exactly.
100%. As for you, trying to recruit that pre-draft training class, without giving any of your secrets away, like how does that look? You mentioned talking with the agents, talking with the players. There are competing institutions around the country, but Austin, Texas is a pretty nice place to come train, right?
It is a very nice place to train. Like I said, with the pre-draft program being January through middle March, it's not a bad place to be, where don't really have to worry about snow, cold weather on that front. But I think just always maintaining your connections, man. Like your network is so important. I'm still in touch with a lot of the people that I worked with at Cincinnati, so I try to kind of get high quality guys. Our program's a little different where like we have a cap of how many guys we're going to take. Like we don't want to get 40, 50 guys. We want to get 12 high quality young men that are going to come in, work hard. So that way, like we can actually give the attention that they deserve. Like we can personalize their program. We can break them into super small groups in areas that they require similar needs as other athletes, and then really keep a good set of eyes on them the entire time from that. But maintain those connections, reaching out on social media, reaching out to any coaching staff, reaching out to our position coaches about their connections that they have with any graduating people or people who are declaring this year. There's a lot of different avenues, but I think our ultimate goal is trying to get high quality young men who want to come in and work.
How do you determine if they're high quality? Do you interview them?
I wouldn't say there's a set interview, but a lot of times like you're having phone calls with the athlete, with their potential agents, with parents, with families, and a majority of time like a lot of these guys are very high character guys. Like you won't make it as far as you will unless you have those characteristics. So majority of the athletes that we've worked with have been nothing but phenomenal people to work with. Like we've had privilege of working with guys from huge Power 5 programs to HBCUs, and they've come in, they've worked hard. So I just think it's a feeling, in all honesty. And we want it to also be a good fit for the athlete, not just on our end. Like we want them to truly believe in our program, like what we can offer them. So at the end of the day, if they're like, I don't know about ROI, but I'll go train there, you're already working on an uphill battle, right? So I think it's that mutual respect and buy-in from the facility and the athlete, because that's ultimately what's going to produce the best results, whether that is the place like us or a place like an Exos or these other facilities. There needs to be a mutual buy-in from both parties, and then I think that's what's going to help those guys.
Absolutely. I know you took a chance on us, letting us help out the movement assessments for you guys this last year, and they were all very respectful, really bought into it, asking us good questions, wanted to understand the data. So yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Well, yeah, I think getting guys like that get exposed to new technology that they haven't had the opportunity to work with, because a lot of the guys that we worked with, like you said, we had some Power 5, but we also had some HBCU and some super small FCS schools that don't have the resources that those very major programs have. So exposing them getting to learn, and just the curiosity, I think was amazing to see, like the data that the Valor assessments can spit out. It's like, oh, like it can actually show like side to side symmetry, pulling out these potential risks, some areas of improvement, give you some potential correctives to work on. So I just think the data that was offered through y'all's technology was able to provide a lot of good insight for these athletes.
Appreciate it. We're coming out with some new stuff this year, so yeah, stay tuned. But as far as interviewing athletes, determining if they're exceptional, or at least phone calls, what do you think really does make a difference between a good athlete and a great athlete?
That's a great question. I think there's just a huge mental component with these guys. And I don't even know if I can give you like a correct term to describe it. But I think initially, especially like when I first see a patient for their eval, like you can almost tell like if they have it, almost like an X factor, if you will. And there's some like, I don't know if it's an aura, if it's just like they have that mentality of like, I've been told no so long, like I'm just out to prove everyone wrong. Right. That mentality, I think you can pick up on pretty quickly in initial conversations. And those are the types of guys where I'm like, damn, he's had a chip on his shoulder forever. He's going to come in, he's going to work harder than anyone around him. He's going to push himself so much harder than he's ever had to push himself. And you know what? He's going to smile back at us while he's doing it.
Yeah.
And those are, like I said, I don't even know if there's a term for it, but like you can almost just get a sense of guys that really, really want it. And those are the guys that we just love working with.
Or as the current trend.
I know, or I know. That's why I was hesitant to throw it out there.
Yeah. X factor. Or do you think it could be developed, or is it by the time you see them, it's...
Oh, that's another great question. I mean, it's the nature versus nurture type question. I definitely think it can be developed, because there's also like those light bulb moments. I think every person has the opportunity to have those, and it's whether or not like, are you going to use that as a learning moment to make yourself better, or are you just going to let that moment pass you by? So I definitely think it can be developed, but I still think there's just a certain thing that you either have it or you don't.
Yeah, that's fair. What's the craziest thing you've seen working in sports?
Oh, man.
I didn't give Kody any of these questions ahead of time, so...
No, that is a great question. I think just how advanced like some of the technology and some of like the medical sciences are getting. Like there was a guy that I had the privilege of working with at Cincinnati. He was an offensive lineman. He had a grade 3 MCL tear, like completely gone. Knee was super lax. It was opening like a door. Ended up doing an amniofix injection, which is a stem cell based injection into his knee. Usually the grade 3s can take 8 to 12 weeks. This guy was playing and starting 3 weeks from the injury.
Jeez.
And like this is a 300 plus pound man, an offensive lineman that had to move side to side, be able to apply. It was absolutely absurd just seeing like how advanced like the medical realm is becoming. And it's every single day, like new technologies. Like who would have thought you could use a smartphone to get movement analysis and actually get quantitative data, which you guys are doing at Valor. And who would have thought like how you can take this huge biomechanics lab and condense it down into a cell phone. I think how fast these things are progressing are ultimately going to allow sports medicine teams, organizations, facilities to ultimately build and develop phenomenal programs to help their athletes reach their potential and hopefully minimize injury risk at the same time.
It's going to be interesting to see where it goes next. In your day-to-day, what are some of the tools you use?
Yeah, day-to-day, I have the privilege of working with some force plates, getting some metrics there, blood flow restriction training, some of like the red light therapies, PMF, recovery modalities are pretty cool. But at the end of the day, like those modalities are awesome. I always like to try to explain to patients, because there's always a new trend, you know. It's like cold tub was absolutely on fire last year, and red light's becoming this crazy instrument that's biohacking, is kind of evolving. And yeah, that's where I'm just like, that can help. It can help, but I promise you, if like you get a good exercise in, you eat well, you hydrate, you sleep, if you do those things very, very well, that's going to be like 95% of it. That other bit, it can help. Like that's a little bit. Pay attention to these things. And one of my favorite sayings from Mark Verstegen, my mentor when I was at Exos, Cruz Romero, kind of put me onto this quote, and it was like, simple things done savagely well. And that's really how I try to like pass along some of that information. Like if you do these basic things super, super well, you're going to be way better off than a lot of these people that are trying to do like the newest trend, the newest fad when it comes to, and it can be said for like clinicians, patients, athletes, scientists as well. So I think just kind of owning the simple things and doing them so savagely well that there is no doubt in your mind that you could not have done better, it's going to be the best for everyone.
Absolutely. It's not that the new supplement someone's taking.
Yep, exactly.
What is red light therapy? Because not everyone who listens to this is in the industry.
Yeah, so red light, just simpling it down, is essentially a red light that is going to offer heat and kind of stimulate the tissues and increase like the mitochondrial activation through there. And like I said, it can definitely help. There's a lot of research out there. There's also different layers of intensities of these lights that can kind of be a little different. So you definitely want to do your research before getting it, going to a well-respected facility to get any of the treatment as well. It's just a huge recovery modality at this point.
Got it. Do you guys have that in this facility? Or?
Yeah, so we actually have the Therapody compression boots that have the red lights built into them as well. And then we also have some cupping modalities that have some red light built in as well.
That's crazy.
It's absurd, but like I said, it's getting thrown into like the compression boots, into the cups. It's just like those little things that, like I said, it's the cherry on top that we like to throw on the recovery.
Yeah, I mean, for these new technologies coming out, it sounds like obviously stem cells. You have that anecdote showing like how crazy that is. But how do you judge these as a fad or fact?
I mean, a lot of it's going to be research based because I mean, if you're looking at evidence-based practice, like research is a third of that. So like you always need to have respect for research, but as like new things come out, like there's not going to be like long-term studies on new inventions or new supplements or new modalities. So you kind of have to view everything in its entirety. My mentor at Cincinnati, Dr. Mahan, he showed me this great study called the parachute study, where essentially they tried to build a randomized controlled trial to justify the use of parachutes jumping out of planes. They couldn't get people to volunteer because you didn't know if you would be provided a parachute or not. But just because there isn't a study to support the use of parachutes jumping out of planes doesn't mean that they're not effective at saving lives, right? So I think it's always having that healthy amount of like skepticism when it comes to these things. Doing your research, look at the people who are endorsing it. If there are studies behind it, making sure that those studies aren't biased by the group that is producing and manufacturing and selling these products. Because at the end of the day, like, we ultimately want to do what's best for our patients. Like, you want to do what's best for your clients to get the most accurate, data-driven results that are actually going to help them in the long run. So I just think that healthy skepticism is kind of the best thing to do.
Yeah, just knowing that unfortunately money does make the world go round at the same time.
It is a business. It is a business.
Well, for you, what's it been like becoming a business owner? You know, you went to all the schooling, did your residency within physical therapy, and then boom, you now own a high performance facility. But what's that been like?
It's been the biggest challenge of my life, in all honesty. There was a time where I didn't know if I wanted to do it when the opportunity kind of presented itself. Because then, like, I was essentially told that, hey, you can either keep running this or, like, we're shutting down. So it was a true ultimatum, and I was like, man. But then there were a lot of factors to consider. Obviously, my fiance, like how that would kind of, I throw myself into everything. So just knowing that I was gonna continue to throw myself further into this, like how it could potentially affect our relationship, how it would affect the athletes that we were currently seeing, or who had planned to come to us for off-season work, and then probably the most important was like, how is it gonna affect like all of my team? Like that was the biggest factor to consider, and having to sit down and tell these people like, hey, this is what's going on. Like there were literally pits in my stomach telling them like, hey, our ownership group is essentially pulling all funds. Like we're shutting down effective end of March. I'm going to do everything I can. But then like, that was all financially like my personal liability at the beginning stages. So trying just to come to terms with that, thankfully, one of our former managing partners, like he saw the vision the entire time when we were owned. So he was able to help out. So he's one of my partners, kind of in this venture now. But every day is something new that you don't expect, because on the physical therapy side, like you're always kind of paying attention to like how your patient's affect is, how their mood is every single day. But then as a business owner, like you kind of view that and you're like, man, like one bad Google review could completely screw you over, and all it takes are just like those patient interactions. So trying just to refine like our entire system, like making sure anytime someone comes in and works with us either on the performance side or physical therapy side, like it's truly a fun experience for them. So that way, like we can fulfill them, we can fulfill ourselves by being able to help them better themselves throughout that journey, and just making sure that at the end of the day, like we got into this to help people. Like that's at the core roots is like, like being able to make money to survive is one thing, but I also want to be able to do that and make a change.
Absolutely, yeah, 100%. What is your guys' like 5 to 10 year vision at this point?
Would love to continue to develop our facility and our system. Like our systems are very, very well. Our athletes at those pre-draft programs are able to go out and perform and put up very, very good numbers, make teams, get drafted. So I would love to continue to do that in multiple locations. I think that's going to be kind of the next big step for us, are to continue just to get standalone facilities in the Central Texas area, continue to do what we're doing with those high-level athletes, with those high school athletes on the performance and rehabilitative side, and then hopefully get out of the state of Texas and continue doing what we're doing.
ROI worldwide, it sounds like.
That's just your words, not mine, but we'll see. We'll see where it goes.
And so you guys also work with high school athletes then? What do you guys do specifically for their like long-term athlete development? Yeah, so that's a very good question. So on the high school realm, it's like you have the potential to like work with these kids all year round and get them at a young age and truly develop their athletic profiles, continue to like build in these corrective exercises very, very early on. So I think like there's almost a sense of like fulfillment by being able to see these young kids kind of grow into the athletes that they can be, because like these pro guys, they're already really freaking good at what they do. So being able to help them, it's awesome. But being able to develop a 12-year-old baseball player and give him kind of the tools, knowledge, movements to kind of continue to better themselves, hone their craft, like improve mechanics, decrease risk of injury, and then see that develop year to year to year, go from a middle schooler to a high school kid, going from JV to starting on varsity. Those little things that you see, like
they're amazing. Like, I recently had a kid's mom text me. Was like, yeah, our son who you were seeing for his injury, like he told me that he wants to do what you're doing because of how much you helped him through a process. And you don't, when those moments happen, like they really hit home. It's like, man, like even if you ever kind of feel like your spark or your flame kind of flicker, like those moments are like an instant reignition for that. And it's just like, okay, like we're doing some really cool things and being able to help people, and it's so fulfilling.
Yeah, no, you gotta hold those moments close to your heart.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, some of these kids you might even see pre-aura, right?
Exactly, pre-aura, and we got to develop the aura within these kids.
I love it. And I guess personally, it sounds like you're getting married in the next few weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Where are you guys going to get married?
Oh, we were looking at getting married back home in Central Illinois, but we're actually getting married in Manor, so right outside of Austin.
Love it.
Have about 130 people that were so excited that could make the trip down to celebrate with us in a few weeks. Yeah.
Manor. Is that in Hill Country?
No, so it's southeast Austin side. Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah, we'll let you get going for that. I appreciate you coming on the podcast. And if anyone wants to check Kody out, just look up. What do they look up? Where can they find
Yep,
it?
so feel free to check us out online. It's teamroi.com. And if you want to follow us on Instagram, it's at ROI_athlete. We'd appreciate any support and followers on there. And obviously, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us either on Instagram or through our website.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Evan.
Yeah.